Okay, boys and girls, let's look at our anchor chart because we're going to be talking about literary elements. And literary elements are the different parts that make up a story. Now, we have the characters, and the characters are the people and the animals in a story. And when we're looking at the characters, there are main characters in a story, and then there are characters that we would call minor characters. They're not as important in a story. And when we're looking at the characters, we're thinking, what do they say? What do they think? What do they do? What do other characters say and think about them? Now in our story today that we're reading this week, Marisol McDonald, who is the main character in the story? Who's the main character? Logan?
Marisol.
Marisol. Who's maybe a minor character? Can you think of one of the minor characters? A character who isn't who the whole story is about. Teddy.
His mom and dad.
Her mom and dad, yes. Those are minor characters. Very good. Now, another piece that makes up a literary element, or a part that makes up the literary element, is the setting. And setting is where and when the story takes place. And that would mean, like, does the story take place in a school? Does it take place on a farm? Does it take place in present time? Does it take place in the past? Does it take place in the future? Stories can take place in all sorts of different places and periods of time. I know that Mikey likes to read I Survived books, and those take place in different, in the past, right? Which one is your favorite one, Mikey?
Probably the D-Day one.
The D-Day. And when did that take place?
Somewhere in World War II. I don't know the
During
exact-
World War II. And that was in the 1930s and 1940s, right? So that took place in the past. So that is when the setting of that took place. Now, the setting affects the plot because certain events happen in certain settings. So the setting is very important to a story. And it also affects the plot by creating its mood. So mood is very important in a story, and we're going to be talking more about that. Now the plot. The plot is very important because a plot has something called conflict, and we talked about that yesterday. The plot has conflict, and that's the main problem the characters face. And the plot also has got the conflict and then the resolution. The resolution is how the conflict or problem is solved. Oh, look, we have a context clue right here. So conflict is the problem. Conflict or resolution. They defined it right there. Now we have the events in the story. The events are the things that happen in a story. And the events, this is what happens. To change a character, because a character changes, to affect its mood, and to build the plot. So those events are what's happening in the story. These are the things that change the character. Characters change throughout the story. They change when they grow. They affect the mood of the story, and they build the plot. What questions do you have about that? Do you have any? No? Okay. We are going to be reading our story again, and we're going to be discussing some of these things, some of these literary elements. I can't wait to reread our story because I have some questions I'm going to be asking you during the reading of our story. Yay! Okay.